That's away from that.
Okay,
It's not bad.
I'll call the meeting to order. If we would all stand, place face flag, hand on your heart. We'll do the pledge of allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tanya, will you do a roll call, please?
Yeah. Commissioner Digital.
Here.
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Wire.
Here.
Commissioner Shaw.
Here.
Mayor Denner.
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So.
Second. Any comments or questions? Not hearing any yet? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Not seeing anything under appearances and acknowledgement, we'll move down into the consent calendar. Do you have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved. Sorry.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Move down into unfinished business. Item number one, I'll open up the hearing on retail malt beverage license application Unlocked Madison. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to it? You want to come on up to the front? You can have a seat.
Okay. I guess I'm not sure what if we're even supposed to present. We're trying to get a beer, primarily just beer sales for Unlocked Madison, the escape room Axroy place on Egan Avenue. We held off for about 8 months now, but about 2 out of our 3 customers says we need one. So we figured we better come and talk to you guys.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this hearing? Not hearing any, I will close the hearing. And I'll move down to item number 2, approve retail malt beverage license for Unlocked Madison. I have approval for item number 2.
So moved. Second. Do we have a limited number of those, or are they unlimited?
Unlimited, the malt beverage, just liquor licenses are limited.
All those up there. Any concerns from law enforcement on this?
I spoke with Chief Mayer today. He didn't have any concerns.
Thank you.
Is there any extra hoops they gotta jump through with this type of business? James?
Not that I'm aware of, and maybe I'll have a question for them in terms of, there's many of these places that popped up all over. I'd say most of them have alcohol licenses associated with them. Are you gonna have any extra rules or stipulations, limits on drinks or?
Speaking with our insurance company, they require us to stay at 2 beers an hour or under.
Okay.
So we do have a limit and we watch very closely already with our staff for anybody that comes in, because we're on a corner with 3 other bars that anyone that looks like they've been served more than 2 beers isn't throwing axes. So we're pretty on top of that safety wise.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Item number 3, second reading ordinance number 1648 marijuana license.
Quick recap again, there's been no changes on this ordinance since the last meeting. What it does is it adds cultivation, manufacturing, and testing facilities to the list of approved uses. It also allows dispensaries to be used in these new districts, which would be light manufacturing and heavy manufacturing. So only dispensaries are allowed in highway business zones, but then all those uses would be now in the light manufacturing and heavy manufacturing districts. 2 of each type of establishment are allowed distances remain the same at 500 and 1,000. Last time, there was a question, Mr. Mayor, regarding, what was the question last time? I'm looking now. Whether.
One building.
Oh, right, you could
whether-
do two things on one building.
Yep,
Right.
you could have more than one of these establishments out of the same building. Testing facilities would have to have separate access and some of those things. They would all require separate licenses for operation. Thank you for the help there.
That's why he's our attorney.
Thank you, James. Do I have a motion on second reading ordinance number 1648 marijuana license?
So moved.
Second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Move down into new business. Item number 1, adopt resolution number 2022-18, amend employee compensation.
I passed out an updated resolution for this item. The one that was included in the packet had the changes we're looking at making. They were made to the original resolution approved last November. As we all know, it's been amended since then. So we just had to make sure the changes got made to the most recent version rather than the older version. So the version before you today, the changes that are made from previous consideration are related to positions at the community center. There's an aquatics coordinator, which is being moved from grade 9 to grade 14. Grade 14 is much more in line with the certifications and that are required of that position, as well as the responsibilities this person has over staffing, the hiring, the discipline, and the direction of staff underneath them. And then it also moves that position, the aquatics coordinator, from non-exempt to exempt. This is lined up with, again, the staffing requirements, supervision requirements over staff that this person would have. And then the last change it makes is it removes the word special events from the recreation and intramural coordinator. There is another position that is the fitness and special events coordinator. So we didn't see the need for 2 people to have special events within their title. This recreation coordinator may assist in those events as they have in the past, but it's going to be that fitness and special events coordinator that really is the lead person on those activities. Those are the changes being proposed.
Thank you again, Jameson. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-18, amend employee compensation?
So moved. Second.
Any further comments or questions?
Jameson, the aquatics coordinator, is that person going to be in charge of the lifeguards then?
Yes.
All lifeguards.
Correct. All lifeguards.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Item number 2, Sonia, adopt resolution number 2022-19, canvas votes of municipal election.
My job is pretty boring. I want to see yours.
That's the poll, we get to open it up.
That's fine. I mean, they're all.
They do double tally those and they count, they do an unofficial tally and then the actual poll book. They came out tied, so great.
The same.
The same, yes, thank you.
Thank you,
It's been a long Monday, but thank you. No provisional votes, there's one folder or one that got filled out, but he is not in the correct school district or registered in the correct school district, so it wasn't valid. And then I do have the voter books that you need to check any of them out in here. They number them next to their voter number. Find yourself.
This is very nice handwriting.
It is.
My computer's.
That's a good same thing.
I thought about becoming a poll worker.
Not my computer. I don't. Share it up there.
My handwriting looks very similar to my uncle's. Those are 5 or 6. They're like, Dad, you wrote this. I'm like, no. I didn't." Now that you mentioned it, this kind of look like Uncle Lonnie's handwriting. Which might be the truth. We're just at their house. They had a bunch of quarters. And that's why I got them convinced that my uncle was the tooth fairy. Based on my handwriting.
So what?
I don't know. This all looks really good.
It'd just be a motion to approve the resolution when you're ready. What's the R mean in the book?
What?
What's the R mean next to it?
That, an R to be rural, so the Rs are gonna be ones that are not voted in the city. And the As in the book are. absolutely-
That's on us. You got your
That's-
talk.
That's a Monday.
Could have been worse. I think we're good here. Nothing's broke. You didn't. fall
Yeah.
down.
The whole
Sounds
school-
still there. I only wiped out the phone.
I don't know if it's still taping.
It's still what?
You unplugged.
Oh, I just unplugged the power cord.
Yeah.
I was pleased to see that there was a nice turnout.
There was.
for the election.
The staff that we had counting and doing it did a really good job, and they have really long hours.
That's what I said, that's a long day.
It was a very long day.
Wow. What are, wait, it's not weird. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2022-19 canvas voters in municipal election. Second.
All in favor, signify by aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3. Adopt resolution number 2022-20. Schultz second annex.
Before I wipe out.
Yep.
At
I
the
could go
previous,
through access today.
at the previous meeting, we heard some background information and approved memorandum of understanding related to an assisted living project to be located on the south side of town. This action is related to it today. We received the petition for voluntary annexation from the property owner, which is Terry Schultz. And as a result of that, the resolution was put together to accept that request for voluntary annexation and move this project forward. The land is just east of the hospital, west of Terry Schultz's farm. The petition, excuse me, the resolution itself is a few pages long, and it delineates a number of services that anybody residing within this newly annexed territory would be able to receive from the city. Many of it, in most cases, it's simply stating that they're going to be receiving all the same services that anybody would already in the city. It's going to be treated exactly the same way. One change that has been made from previous annexation resolution is related to the electricity for the area. This is an area that is currently served by Sioux Valley Electric. And with the annexation of the land, the city has the opportunity to acquire the service territory. As a result of that, we are obligated to pay 25% of revenues coming from any customers in the near future to be paid to the cooperative, in this case, Sioux Valley. In the past, the way this was done was that the customer had a surcharge placed on them, so that that extra surcharge would equivalent to the 25% surcharge we paid to the cooperative. The way that this is written is actually to keep them at the same rates as other customers within the city, and then to pay that required surcharge to the electric fund. After talking to a few people about this, it seemed like the consensus was that we wanted to be more friendly to economic development and not place that extra burden on the new customer being served by the town. That would be, I think, really the only change from the way that annexations resolutions have been approved in the past. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward, and I'll stand by for any questions.
Do you know if we have a resolution that says if you're in city limits, you'll be served by the city for utilities? Right?
I don't know that we have that resolution, but I think the law is fairly clear.
Garbage, I believe. Garbage can be.
Well, we have a franchise agreement for that.
What it is.
And I mean, we're kind of monopoly with solid waste. I was just asking, neither here nor there.
Jameson, you said before, when they annexed like the hospital, they would charge an extra 25%.
Yes, the way that the math works out is there was a 33.3% surcharge placed onto their account, because that was the extra amount that would be needed, so that the total has 25%. The 25% of the total would be going to the cooperative, and that ends up being the 33% surcharge, and the city's left with 100% that we would have had otherwise.
And on this one, we're not doing that.
Correct. The way it's written now is that it would just keep it would charge them the same as everybody else. And the electric fund is large enough that we'd be able to pay it from that without any significant changes. The way it's written now, but you guys are the elected officials, and you can always change that if you would deem appropriate.
And they requested we annexed.
Correct.
Jameson, did you visit with the previous people that were annexed and they were comfortable with us going this direction?
Yeah, I visited with two property owners or customers that have been annexed in the past and that had the old formula applied to them, and they were very supportive of doing it a new way. Now that they're on the other side of the fence and they're going to be the city that's welcoming a new customer, they like the new way of doing it, and they were supportive of that change. Yeah. No hard feelings. Sure.
So about how much would this equate?
I don't have an estimate. It's a great question. I don't have an estimate on what they expect their electric usage to be. So I can't know what that difference is gonna be.
What we figure, Brad?
Less than 10,000 a year.
I would say that it's probably gonna be at most, just say it's a total would be 140 over 7 years, so 20 a year roughly be the most it would be. I don't see it being any more than that.
And that's to bring on the additional.
It's somewhere in that range anyway, without seeing anything other than just the size of the building and comparing it to like the hospital and other buildings like it. That's just off the top of my head.
Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-20, Schultz second annexation?
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or question? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Item number 4. Ryan, did you want to go over this one? Authorize mayor to sign change order number 2, Homies Inc. Water System Improvement Project Phase 2.
So just a brief summary, the plan was to remove the asphalt surfacing by way of milling, as has been on all the other streets on the RD project. However, on 8th Street, between Egan Avenue and Lee Avenue, it was discovered that there's presence of concrete under the asphalt, and so that makes milling impossible. This requires full depth removal of all surfacing rather than our milling. So this change order is the net result of the reduction in plants quantity of 2,718 square yards for full depth reclamation, which would be that milling, and then salvage stockpile asphalt mix and granular base course. And then the addition of the item, remove asphalt concrete pavement, which consists of 6-inch concrete and 3-inch asphalt overlay in the same amount of 2,718 square yards. The total amount then for the change order is an increase of $10,872. We don't have a lot of choice here. It's just simply a necessity in order to do the project. Seems as though the price that was given is fair, and it kind of falls right in the range of other bids on other projects.
That's the total cost to remove, fill.
Yeah, so this change order just reflects the surfacing removal. All of the way we'll build the section back remains the same, and so the base course and everything remains the same.
So old road, or what?
Yeah, very old. I'm not sure how long that concrete's been there, but it's been a long time.
Was it how much, like a whole block, half a block?
2 lots.
2 block, oh. Seems like a pretty good deal, really.
Yeah.
Do they normally do like a core on these that we could have prevented these? I know we
A
have.
core would have shown that, but there must not have been a core on those blocks.
Be kind of excessive, the core of a block.
It would, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve change order.
Second.
Thank you, Ryan. Any further questions or comments? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5, AMI update and possible action.
Members of the commission, you should have in front of you a little presentation here, a progress report for the AMI project. We currently have 276 meters installed on the system. They're in gray on that map. You can see they're kind of scattered out throughout the city. There's a high density of them up in the northeast quadrant. That was in circuit 13, where we were trying to do a saturation meter so that we could do a evaluation of our meter data management system to see how they could do transformer loadings and that type of stuff. So we had to saturate that so that every single meter on the transformer would have or every single transformer would have a meter on it that was the new style meter, so we could get the interval data, and then we can do the verification of their capabilities. The next slide, during this process, working with OATI, we've been able to create different brand new technology. Actually, these meters that we're putting in, the Duet meters, never existed before we started on this project. And so this new meter has 2 sessions where you can run a radio that receives the readings, and you get another radio that can transmit those readings up to the head end system. And that way we can read the meters faster, and it will allow us to use the new meters to get interval reads on our old meters. And what that does is allows us to be semi-smart in our metering. Smart meters have interval data and the old meters do not. But this will allow us to get meter intervals off of our old meters and would be what I call semi-smart metering. The other thing is a LoRa, which is long range radio to DNP controller, and that's for the conservation voltage reduction. And that allows us to go in and control our LTCs directly from the LoRa system. One of the reasons why we chose this technology was that we wanted the LoRa network to be able to do more than one thing. And so we didn't have like 5 radio frequencies, 5 sets of things to maintain. We'd have one that we do all these different things. And so that's part of the reason why we chose the technology through OATI. This again is something that never existed prior to this project. When we asked the question, can you make one or can we get one? Because it seemed that's why we bought this. And they said yes. And so now it's in development. It's at OATI. It's working, and they'll have it here in the field here fairly soon. The Duet meters, as we call them, that have 2 radio sessions going at one time, hence Duet. $15 more per meter. Again, it allows a semi-smart metering, gives us interval data on our ERT meters, and again, gives us the Utilismart enough data to compile transformer loading. So that's one of the things we want to see is, do we have overloaded transformers? Do we have underloaded transformers? Both of those are important to know, because in the system, you want to get your transformers as close as you can to the right size. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of extra, not a lot, you'd have extra losses associated with serving that load. Next slide, metering. This is just showing you what electric meter readout looks like on an ERT meter. You can see all the little dots on the red line. That's where another meter has read it, one of the new ones. And you can see some of the intervals there. The demand is calculated by looking at the difference between the 2 readings and the time, and then they can come back and figure out the demand on the ERT meters. So it's just a math step that goes in there. The numbers of the meters down below, these are all meters that are reading that 1 meter. So that kind of gives you an idea of how the network works. It reads multiple readers read each ERT meter. I'll spit it out yet. And the next one is a water meter. You can see the same thing. We're reading the water meters. The water meters are programmed differently in their ERTs, and so they spit out data a little bit more frequently than the electric meters. And you'll see from this printout here that on that kind of green line there, you can see all the little dots from along there, and there's a lot more of them. And that's because the water meters do spit out information more frequently than the electric meters. And that's something we're going to work on here. But in this case, you could do interval flow rates can be computed by comparing 2 different readings in the time frame in between them. So similar to the demand. The next slide is the LoRa meter readout. Now this is exactly what it looks like. And these are the demands by 15-minute interval. And from the demand then is calculated out the actual usage, which is in the blue. And so you can see the spikes in there for different amounts of energy consumption at any 15-minute period. And that's how the system will use that going into the MDM, meter data management system, to see how much load is on each transformer. So it takes those demands and calculates out the total demand on any one transformer at any one time over a 15-minute period. Next slide is a budget review. We had basically 4 different areas that we had monies put away for this project in the 2022 budget. In supplies and materials, dues and subscription, we had $147,815. So far this year, we've used $66,001. On the improvements line, the 5433 line, which was our capital improvement line, we had $216,200, and so far we used $79,073. Under professional services, this is just general. It wasn't specifically earmarked just for AMI. So we have a budget of $156,361 with $21,964 used by AMI. The CIP professional services had an $18,000 budget for AMI, and amount used so far is $6,400. And these are all split. This is combined, all 3 utilities. It's split on MMU split. So each utility has a little bit of, skin in the game, so to speak. Next steps, we got to finish up the additional meter installs. We got to work on the programmability of our electric meters. We're looking to see if we can change them from their current manual mode, which is it spits out a reading when it gets a tone, and then it does intervals that are intermittent. They're not specific at any one time. And so you get kind of a hit and miss thing going on there with the electric meters. They should be able to be programmed into bubble up, just like the water meters. And then we'll be able to read that only problem there is we'll have to go from house to house, changing that program. But it would give us the ability to read the meters just the same as if they were a brand new meter, that costs a lot of money. And then the final thing is we want to be able to integrate our ERT data with our LoRa data, and then you won't know the difference when you're looking at the output from Utilismart, which kind of meter you got. Basically, you have the same information more or less available. So when we get our meters into bubble up, we'll be able to take our old meters and keep using them until they time out and be able to get the same information out of them as the new meters. Are there any questions?
Brad, you mentioned having to go house to house, update the water. Aren't we required to do that, take pictures of the lines coming in every
They're-
property too?
They're inspecting them. If they find anything with lead, then they take take note of it, take pictures, that type of stuff. So they're inspecting virtually every property
So
right
that's
now.
something we could,
But we don't have to do the water meters. The water meters are good. And the thing about the water meters is that they're a little bit more advanced in their ERT, and that they can be programmed via radio from the
Okay.
street. So they don't even have to go into the home. They can reprogram them right from the street.
Good.
We've already done it in an area doing some testing. We had some meters that weren't reading as good as we wanted them to. We went out and changed the mode in which they operate. There were basically 3 modes we could put them in that would still meet the 10-year or 20-year warranty for the battery. And we put it in what they called high power handheld. And that one reduces the amount of interval times that they do it. They only spit out once a minute or whatever, but then it's at a higher power rather than once every 15 seconds at a lower power. So that's kind of the difference. We went and did that, tried that. It didn't seem to make much difference, so we switched them back.
thank you.
Mhm.
Do you have a time frame on when this conversion is going to be completed?
It'll kind of depend on the rest of the meters when we can get them in, but we've got some meters left to put in. It's taking a little longer than we wanted between different things. I mean, getting stuff in, getting people available, working between Tyler, not Tyler, and Tyler, not Tyler. So we've been, kind of dodging the potholes a little bit here, but hopefully we can get going and get done in earnest. If we could just go full bore, put meters in, it wouldn't take long. It really doesn't take that long to put them in. They can go through, I think they put in 80 of them in like 3 days or something like that. I mean, they really got after it, so it won't take long to put them in. As we go along, one of the things I didn't put in here though, as we go along, we'll have to look at where we want to put them. Because what we're doing right now is we're saturating the network with properties that we anticipate having disconnects, apartments, that type of stuff. So they're getting the newer meters so that we don't have to roll a truck every time we want to disconnect somebody at an apartment or whatever. And so those are going to be sporadically set, around town. And then we'll have to go and see what we need to put in between those to pick up all the reads. And the challenge is still gonna be the water meters, because they're down in basements and pits, they're harder to read. But it sounds like OATI working with Vision has found something that they're gonna make some changes that they can reprogram our new meters over the air. We don't have to do anything, they can reprogram all of them over the air, and they're looking at doing a new program for them to see if it'll help with the water meter reads. Are there any questions on this?
Exciting stuff, I think.
So does the conservation voltage reduction, are you waiting to roll that out until we actually have all the meters in, or is it gonna be?
No, right now what they're doing is we had to put bellwether meters in. And so a bellwether meter is a meter that's at the end of the circuit. That's on a load tap changer on one of the transformers in the substation. And so then you measure the voltage at the far reaches of your circuitry so that you don't dip too low, which we shouldn't have any problem with. But then they use those voltages over a period of time to build up a database. And from that database, then they can make predictive analytics to show how much they can reduce at different times. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but right now they're doing the data gathering part. They got to get enough data put together so they can put their analytics together to determine how far they can drop the voltage. The problem we're going to run into to start with is that back in, I don't know when, 70, 76 possibly, the city of Madison rebuilt some of the substations and decided they were going to go with a 14,400 volt three-phase system. After that, they decided to change it down to 13,800 by using the tap changers. What that did is it used up almost all of the tap changer to get down to that voltage with very little left to go down to reduce the voltage for conservation voltage reduction. So until we get the substations rebuilt in 24 and 25, we'll have limited CVR capabilities just because we can't tap change down as far as we really would like to. So in other words, the savings won't be as good as what we'd anticipated because we can't hit the voltage that we need to save as much initially. Once we get the substations redone, then we'll have full capability.
And that's all part of the bigger picture plan.
Yeah, the way it worked out is the CVR pays for like the annual fees for most everything. So that the actual cost of the ongoing operation should be covered by the CVR. And then the rest of it's going to be just time that's saved with the staff, not having to go out and disconnect meters, wear and tear in the meters, wear and tear in the meter sockets, the exposure you get to risk, all those different things come into it. Then the prepay is also part of that, why we brought these meters that have the ability to be remote connect and disconnect so people can get on the prepay system, prepay for their meters, and then manage their own usage. There's a small fee for that annual or monthly, but it's something that we want to try to utilize to help out as many people as possible that want to get on that. They got an app on your phone, you can pay from your phone, you can track your usage every day. And once we get that program stood up, any customer for the city of Madison, whether they're on prepay or not, can sign up for the app and they can monitor their usage daily and keep up with their usage so they'll know what's going on. And where that really helps is when you have a hot day and little Billy's got a pool party with all his friends and they're in and out of the house 50 times. And then you get the bill at the end of the month. You're like, gosh, why is my bill so high? You forgot about the pool party. But if you see it on the app, you'll be looking at like, oh gosh, there was Billy's pool party and it cost us $5 or $7 or $10, whatever it is, to run that air conditioner all night. So.
And we can dive down to that to the day or
to the day, it'll be to the day on the app.
Cool.
The question at hand is whether or not, we've ordered roughly 715 meters right now, and we need some more to finish up the project. We'd like to get the another 500 ordered. They allowed us to keep the same price as what they quoted us earlier in the year, which, as you know, with inflation tracking and everything, that if we don't buy them now, if we buy them later, there's a good chance it's going to cost us extra money. We'll have some extra meters at the end of this for replacements for people that want to add on to the prepay and for, just growth.
What are the lead times that you're seeing there?
They were talking the last time it was something around 16 weeks. So, we'll probably have all the other meters in by the time these would come in.
So we'll be waiting for them.
We might.
what was the initial number we were thinking total?
We get 500 more of the single phase
And
type
that gets
duet.
us to our initial, what we,
Would be a little bit
planning.
over that, yeah, and,
A
but
little
we used up a few extra meters saturating circuit 13.
Right.
You know, instead of doing one every 3 roughly, we did every meter there for the most part, so.
Okay.
There's a few places we didn't get all the meters swapped because we had bad sockets on the house. And so it's something that we send letters out, and I've had some phone calls back, and people are having to replace the meter sockets on their house or have them repaired before we can swap the meter. So in some ways, it's good that we're doing it because we're catching some potential outages, potential fires, that type of stuff.
are we looking, we need to act on those 500 Jameson or what?
It sounds like it's within budget, but we've got the fund for it yet this year, so the intent today was an update, and if needed, to have any action, but I think what Brad described is pretty well in line with what we've been working on and what we've been planning on. I don't think any action is needed. Long way of saying that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Moving to item number 6, action to purchase simulate pressure monitoring equipment from Flow Control Automated.
The next item is the, we had a part of our overall AMI / smart city proposal was to do water monitoring to look for, you know, leaks and that type of stuff, leak detection. We had an original company set up to do that, but we told them we wouldn't be able to do anything until 2022. So we started contacting them in November of 21, and apparently the company had sold. The new company won't even respond to any inquiries or whatever, and we were getting a little frustrated with them. And then at the ATC, the Annual Technical Conference for South Dakota Rural Water, there was a vendor there that had some pressure transducers that worked off the transients. And what happens in the water system is anytime you open a valve or something to take water out of the system, it changes the pressure. The water starts flowing, and then when you shut that valve off, you get a pressure spike. And that pressure spike, depending on how big and how fast the water was moving, can create a transient pressure surge in the pipe, and it can fracture the pipe. These guys have pressure transducers that will go down to very small intervals of time. And what happens is most of your pressure monitors are on about a 1 second sample rate. And so they'll average out what happened over that second. Where these guys go in and get real fine data into the milliseconds or whatever it is, and they show you the pressure transient at the full peak rather than this averaged out peak. And so you can see that on a one that shows that it's 140 PSI peak or something, on an old style pressure transducer, on these new ones will show it went up to 210 and then came back down. You know, started out at 50, went to 210, came back down to 50 or whatever, and it averages out to 140 or whatever, which should still be within the capabilities of the pipe, but the one at 210 isn't. And that's what breaks the pipe. And so if we can get those put out in the system, then we'll be able to monitor the things in the system that could be causing, you know, problems with the pipe. And they will geolocate via cell phone signals and satellite signals. And then they will be able to synchronize and find out where the pressure spike came from by having these out there monitoring in different locations. And so it was something that the other proposal, it was $10,000 per spot. So in this case, if we were to do the 10 spots that we're talking about in this overall proposal, it'd been $100,000 for that, plus $2,000 per, I remember it was $200,000 per month or per year for, I think it was per year, just to monitor them.
The data.
Yeah, you know, it's another 20 grand. So I mean, this is substantially less money. The only issue with this is we didn't have these guys under our original proposal. They submitted this in response to the same questions that we had for a proposal, but they weren't part of it. And so they wouldn't be covered under the blanket authorization we had with that proposal as far as meeting state law for bid requirements. So this case, originally they proposed you know, doing one zone with 5, which is a $17,000 mark. 17 is half of this 34. Get the right total here, so I don't misstate it here. I think it's at the front here. I should have wrote that number down before I started.
34,550 is what's.
Yeah, okay, 34,550, and then it'd be half that. So,
So are they taking the place of what was called match point?
yes,
And we deferred that when we went on with HAM.
Yeah.
With this program.
yes.
And we were at approximately 50 grand there, right?
It was gonna be substantially more than that after reviewing it
Okay.
in their contract, the way it was reading. We hadn't really probed it too much, they were the only one that bid. So it was something we put on the back burner and thought we'd look at it coming back, but after looking at it, to do this size of an area, you know, what this would be doing, so to compare apples to apples, they'd have been over 100 grand.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this one, relatively inexpensive, it looks like it would be doing everything we want, and then some. We could do one this year, one zone, which would be the northeast tower, then the northeast part of town, and then next year, do the other tower plus the southwest part of town where we show the other hot spots in our system.
So is there? I just was wondering, after this $34,550, is there an annual fee?
There is a small, it was just for the batteries. And those are 36-month life, and so we'd have to replace them after that. There's a subscription fee of $615 for an annual payment per each. And then if you go over 1 megabyte, there's a 35 cents per megabyte data charge. But that $615 is all included in this original quote for the first year. It'd just be annually, be that $615.
What's the life expectancy of these?
Well, the batteries are 36 months. I didn't get a price on them. But I don't know, I mean, they didn't have any listing of how long they'd last. I'm assuming it's like everything else, it'll work till it stops, and,
Right.
you know, it's electronics. And as long as, you know, I'm gonna say probably 10 years. And as we put the new water tower online, it will change the dynamics of the water system. And because it's hooked up with a 16-inch pipe and has a lot of, you know, flow capability, we'd want to monitor that, I think, you know, fairly good after, you know, if we get a chance. So we know what's going on there, because of that much flow capability, you can create some water hammer pretty easy.
We have everything addressed before 10 years to, you know,
Yeah,
the major issues.
but I request that we approve doing the 5 at the half of the 34,550. That'll be below the bid limits, no issues. We can give it a test drive if we like it. We can look at doing the other half next year. And their original quote
To
was
clarify, both zones are still under the bid limits, so you
Right.
guys could do half now, half later, or all at once, whatever you want.
What are you're thinking, one zone this year, another?
If we wanted to, we could do that. I think we've got enough budget, we could do both. It was just something that if we wanted to pare it down and try it out, if we were leery about the technology, we could try one zone and come back and do another one next year. One of the things we want to try to do is utilize access of city facilities as much as possible, to put the monitors in. And that way we can reduce the impact of homeowners, that type of stuff, and having to go into other facilities, so.
Commissioner Corbin, are you familiar with this technology?
Not this specific company, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely a thing. Sioux Falls has tried things like this in the past and had pretty good results, so. I don't, you know, the workload we have, we still have projects going on. I think the prudent thing would be to do half of it this year and see how we like it. And go from there.
And they were good with either way. They actually gave us a quote to start with for half. And I was like, geez, that's so cheap. We should look at doing more. So we got another zone, and they said this would make sense to put one in this other area. So they went back and reevaluated the hot spots and came back with a second proposal. So that's where this 34,550 came from.
One zone, you're thinking
I think it'd be great to start with one.
I'll make a motion to go ahead with, what zone is it?
That's the northeast.
Northeast zone for the 17,000. What did you say, Brad?
7.8.
17,280.
Okay.
17,000.
Yeah, it's very close to half. He had sent me both proposals, and that's what the
Yeah.
limited proposal was. 17,280. And to clarify, Brad, this is equipment that if needed could be moved to different areas.
Yes, so we could put it in one area and then move it, sometime in the future. As we start replacing mains and we get, fewer and fewer cast iron mains, we can concentrate these to the cast iron main area. Now, obviously, the timeframe for that's about 30 years. So I mean, we got time to move these around quite a bit.
How do you say the name of the company?
Cyrenix,
Line of X. That's tough.
yeah.
I'll continue with the motion to approve the Cyrenix,
Yes,
I guess.
pressure monitoring system to try it out for in one zone for this year, and $17,280. And if it works out, we'll discuss again next year.
Second,
Got a motion. Do I have any comments or questions? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Public comment. Jim Casino, if you want to come on up.
I just got a question for the commissioners and perfect. Brad over there. Last Wednesday night, that thunderstorm we had between 220 and 311 street address in Northwest 9th Street. The lights went out, street lights went out. Thursday morning, I called it in about 10 a.m., reported it. No action. I called this morning at 8:30 a.m. I thought they'd at least come fix them today. No action. Did you ever get the calls?
yes.
Well, how come isn't streetlights important?
They are important, but they're not as important as other things, depending on, the workload they have. And
But that's a very busy street, 9th Street. The second busiest in Madison, South Dakota. And it don't take all your crew to fix a street light, I wouldn't think.
well, they look for days where the wind's not blowing 50 miles an hour too. So that's the other thing they try to do to keep from having to go up an aerial device and wind.
Well, what would it have done if the whole town got blacked out? You wouldn't work. We'd be in the
Jim,
black.
we'll have you address the commission.
We'd just be in black, huh?
We'd probably have to, I would assume, reach out to
Yeah,
partners.
I think that,
Our three guys. there's-
I know East River goes out in bad weather, and I think our city of Madison used to go out in bad weather, but this wasn't bad weather, just the wind blowing, it blows every day. I was just wondering why, that's a very busy street, and it's all right in a row. And it
Just-
happened.
It
during
was
the
just the streetlights that
thunderstorm.
weren't working?
Huh?
Just the streetlights?
Just the streetlights, 3 of them. Between 220 and 311.
Thank you.
I mean, like,
Yeah, well, that's good. Thank you.
well, I just think we ought to have a little. That's kind of an important deal in my opinion. But maybe you guys don't agree.
I actually work in the industry and, I don't know of any companies that are gonna deploy immediate emergency assistance for a light that's out, but if your power's out, that's a whole different story.
I agree, but it's right in the row, 3 of them. I mean, it'd be different when only one went out. But you guys don't think it's important, I don't know. That street's just like a racetrack out there after 8 o'clock at night. Well, maybe play right here.
Thank you, John. Announcement, next commission meeting, May 2nd, 2022. Any other announcements?
I have an announcement related to some vacancies on city boards and commissions. So I'll start by saying in general that the city has, I think, 6 or so different boards, committees, and commission-related bodies. Moving forward, I'd like to start announcing as we go, as the terms of board members are expiring, so we can notify the public of these openings as they pop up. In many cases, the current member that's serving that role may wish to continue serving another term. I'm not planning on announcing whether they are or not. But as they open up, I just want to let the public know what's available. And if anyone's interested in that board, they can come contact City Hall. We've got a board application put together that they can fill out and return. And ultimately, it's up to the mayor and the city commission, of course, to decide whether to reappoint an existing individual or someone new. And maybe somebody is interested and they don't get the spot. We might find something else that we would love to have them involved with. We certainly appreciate the public's input in these boards. We've got 2 different entities that have vacancies. First is the library board. We have 2 spots available there. The library board consists of, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 individuals, 5 appointed by the city, and then a city commissioner, county commissioner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And each person serves a 3-year term on that. The second one is the Madison Housing and Redevelopment Commission. The city is responsible, according to state law, to appoint members to this group as well. The Housing Commission consists of 5 members that are appointed to 5-year terms. I will, I guess, note in particular here that the city staff recently learned that we have not done a good job on our own of keeping up on these appointments. In the last 5 years, again, these are 5-year terms, the city's only taken action to appoint 1 person to the Madison Housing and Redevelopment Commission. So these members have continued to serve on the board past expiration since we haven't done any new appointments. So as city staff, we're researching this issue. It's not, unfortunately, as simple as you'd like it to be or as some of our other boards are. So we're researching it to see, to learn more about the appointments and who's eligible for appointments in that particular board. So we can expect action to be occurring in the near future on these appointments. This is taking more time than we had expected, but we are trying to get answers as quickly as possible. It is somewhat of there's some urgency on this topic as the Housing Commission has provided what's called a notice to quit to DSU on one of the properties. And so this means that DSU students would have to be vacating the property by the end of May. So we want to make sure that, for one, the city is not looking at getting involved in the board or their actions, but we do want to make sure that we are doing our due responsibilities to appoint these individuals as required by law so they can fill out their responsibilities. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It is 6:30. Do I have a motion to go into exec session?
So
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried. Thank you.